So we are back here at New Gambia platform, our weekly program. I'm your host, Mamadou Sawane, and I have Ibrahim Abalde on my right, and I have Sam Sise below the screen. So today we're gonna be talking about very important issue, the resignation of the Justice Minister, Batambedu. And we're also gonna look at the LGBT issue in the Gambia. Then we're gonna express our opinions as panelists, and also we're gonna get feedback from our audience to give us their take on the issues. So we welcome to our New Gambia platform, Civic Education and Global Affairs show. Feel free to contribute, and let's go right into it. The Justice Minister Batambedu has been the Minister of Justice since changes came to Gambia in 2016. He has pioneered the TRRC, the Janet Commission, and many other justice issues. Recently, he has submitted his resignation from that position for a better opportunity in UN. A lot of people have been really speculating his resignation of this position might be in different factors. So we're gonna look fairly and squarely on the reasoning we think. Again, this is an opinion based. We think is responsible for this, and we also gonna try to dig down in the government of Adam Barrow, to see what is it that Batambedu brought on the table, and what might be their take on his position. And also we're gonna also look at President Jammeh, the former president, the take of the Justice Minister on that issue, and how the government, what position the government is in to undertake that moving forward with the new Justice Minister. We're also gonna look at the aftermath of this whole thing, the TRRC and Janet Commission, the fate of those two areas, because those are things that Batambedu pioneer. And then since he's not gonna be there, somebody else is taking over. What are the fate of those commission and many other justice areas? When we finish that, we're gonna look at the gays and lesbian issues that is sparking in the Gambia nowadays. We are not sure where we're heading with this, but it appears that our government is being engaged on financial front to make a decision on whether to encourage gays and lesbian marriage in the Gambia. And customary, our culture doesn't entertain that, our religion doesn't entertain such, but we're gonna express again our opinion as panelists to make sure that we give, a proper view so that our audience can gain from. So I'm gonna just let the panelists just jump into it right away without wasting much time. So, Balde, you wanna come in, or Sam?
Go ahead, Balde.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much, Sawane, for once again, for extending this invitation to me to come on the New Gambia platform. Well, to start with, like you mentioned, the resignation of the Justice Minister, which has been making a lot of buzz around the Gambian social media circles, and as well as some, comfort zones of a lot of people within the Gambia and and outside the Gambia. So, for my personal opinion on the resignation of the Justice Minister, it's different from maybe the way Sawane or Sam may look at it. I think the resignation is abrupt. The timing is bad for a number of reasons. Chief among the reasons is his unfinished business with the Jane Commission, the assets, supposedly that belong to Jammeh being sold, and the U-turn or the decision by the Court of Appeal to say that no, it was wrong to sell the assets. And the other reason is about the unfinished draft constitution, which is supposed to, by all indications, be passed to give a lot of credit to the transitional government of President Adama Barrow. If it is to really have a very strong point, one of the reasons why they came to power, one of the campaign promises was to draft a constitution that is uniquely Gambian, which incorporates a lot of issues, and reforms among them will be in the draft constitution, so that it will be different from what it is, from what the 1997 constitution is. So for me, these are the two main principal reasons why the abroad resignation of the Justice Minister leaves a lot of questions, weighing out there that remains actually to be answered. And why he did it at this time, or whether something has been cooking all along that actually he was going to leave, like any one of us, that sometimes you leave at a very good time rather than leave at a time when things are bad, or when the atmosphere is very, very tense, or when you begin to realize that you have, or you are creating more harm than good. So sometimes leaving at that time, we'll say, okay, we'll signal that he didn't do well, or he was about to be booted out. That's why he left. It's good to leave at a good time, but the timing for the Justice Minister's resignation, that's Abubakar Tambadu, it's very, very bad. Yes, of course, there is there's nothing like indispensability that, once, like they say in the army or in the military, soldier come, soldier go. So if one is good at a position, of course, your replacement, is equally going to be a better candidate and do a lot, even better than what you did, because there are so many competent Gambians, in the Gambia and even outside the Gambia, who can actually be ministers of justice, even though there is a criteria set around being minister of justice. And not anybody can be minister of justice, but there are a pool of Gambian experts within the country and outside the country who can be ministers of justice. But for him to come and then be part of a mission to institute reforms at the level of the judiciary, to leave at such a time, for me, like I said, without repeating myself, leaves a lot of questions. So since this is a topic that all of us are going to give our different texts, I will allow Sam to come in here and say what his opinion is on this very contentious issue as it is now.
All right, Sam, you can jump in and then just give us your 2 cents on this.
Yeah, I think I echo what some of what Balder said, starting with the timing. It's a bad, but I won't, elaborate too much into that. What I want to look at is first, anybody that served a position, we first need to appreciate what they did. I want to say thank him for what he did before I get into some details here. After thanking him for what he did, he served our country, so that's a good thing. That's something we should all appreciate. But when I look back to his legacy in that position, you know, there were areas of opportunities, and there are some things that could have gone certain way or should have been done differently. And there were some things that were controversial in his handling of certain things. And for example, when I look at uh, how he handled the jungler situation, you know, when I look at how he went to help Myanmar and file a lawsuit for those people when his own country is here and people are waiting to see what is going to happen to not only to the junglers, but how is he going to decide about Gemma's situation and what happened in APRC regime. So those made me question, why is he going to help another country when our country needs the help the most? And then another thing I look at, Gemma's assets, you know, with the Janet Commission and then Gemma's assets, I don't think that was handled correctly, because from what I've seen from my experience working at the U.S. Embassy and then coming to America and then working in America here, and I've seen different things. When assets like that are to be disposed or are to be sold, number one, there is a time for it when that needs to happen, and when that time comes, it really needs to be announced to the general how it's going to happen. All of that need to be broadcasted for the general public to know, because we want to promote transparency. We do not want to sell things off of on the side. You may be selling it to the wrong people. There may be people that really shouldn't even be buying those things sometimes. You know, it all depends on what the Gambian law says, and he is the one person that really should be able to interpret that and help people understand. If the law says, for example, civil servants or government officials cannot buy any of those properties, for example, some places have laws like that. When they're selling something, it's not for employees, it's for the general public. Some places don't have that rule, so people need to understand that in the first place. And then if it's for everybody, then it needs to be announced in a transparent manner on television, on radio stations, or newspapers. Everybody needs to know that GMS assets are being sold and so and so, so and so. It needs for when property so is going to be sold, schedule for when the vehicles are going to be sold, and they should be on auction basis. Is licensed to auction to properties and not going to favor anybody, an independent body that can do the auctioning and have vehicles out there for people to go and bid for those vehicles, and they sell it to the highest bidder. That way is conducted fairly. Everybody has the opportunity to buy it, and not just allow certain people in the government that want to drive that new car from Germany to buy it at a very cheap price, which will not bring the return of that investment into our country. It's going to be a very limited amount. Some vehicles, I don't know how much they sold anything, but I can guarantee you there may be a vehicle that may be worth $2 million. Somebody may have gotten it for 500,000 or less. You know what I mean? That's not good for our country. In a Jammeh's regime, we lost a lot of things. We lost a lot of property. Jammeh did his work, and we thank him for what he did in the country, but what he damaged is also a lot. So, and what he cost the Gambia was also a lot. So therefore, if we're going to recover from some of his assets to bring back to the country that is a very poor country, and we said that when this Barrow government took power, there was not even enough money to pay us salaries for our people. When you start like that, you really need a lot of money, and there are assets there that can give you a boost in bringing to that economy rather than taking loans. So I think the way that was handled, if they sold some property, it was wrong. That was the wrong way of doing it. So, and then another thing that I look at is, in the position that I'm in, some of the things that we look at and what we analyze in the United States here, in my company is or in my industry that I work for is, people leave their boss, not the job. People leave because of something that has to do with the boss, because the boss either does not treat them well, or the boss does certain things that they don't like, or they don't get along with their boss, or maybe because they're working in a very hostile work environment that they cannot stand. And at some point, they're going to find a job and leave. It doesn't matter when they leave. They're not going to they're not going to care about what is on the table, what is happening, what they've started and it's not finished yet. They're just going to leave you and leave you in that mess because of the way they have been treated, or because of the way that they could not, because of, we don't know. I don't know why he left. And at this time, I can bring all of those to the table as, those are possibilities. Because, he left because could be because he was in a hostile work environment. But if I were him in his situation, I would have given up a long time ago, not now, and get out of this government after I smell what is cooking in this government. If I don't like it, I would have left a long time ago and or find a job a long time ago and then tender my resignation without waiting for all of these and not have to start all of these until we get to a point where we quit. So that's kind of like my take.
Okay, so based on what you guys have buttressed on, Ba definitely did have something on his plate, especially the constitution review that hasn't been finalized. He has the TRRC still not finalized. He has the Jani Commission has been finalized, but unfortunately hasn't been implemented by the executive body the way it was recommended. Now the question is that based on what Balde you have said, and then based on what Sam you have said, so you're saying that he should have left even prior to this. He should have left even prior to this because
no, I don't think
if I'm getting you correct, is that what you mean?
Well, for me, looking at from the beginning how and control things, do it the right way, or I'm going to say, you know what, I'm going to excuse myself. I can't handle this. I need to go. But I don't.
Right, but to be fair,
and see.
To be fair, it has been like seeing that Ba has been an instrument to this commission, especially for the TRRC, to make sure that Jammeh is prosecuted. Isn't that a good thing for the country or for the victims?
Absolutely, yes. And I'm glad you brought that up. And that's why I said we need to thank him for what he did. Because, yep, you just brought that up. When Jammeh, people were talking about Jammeh coming in the country, he stood up, and that was the right thing, and said if Jammeh stepped foot in the Gambia, he will be arrested and prosecuted. That was a good example. That was very good. Now, so that's why I said we've always going to thank people for what they did, because there's a lot of good things that they did. He did, and we can't mention all of them, and there are some that we don't even know. So I think that was a good thing when he stood up and said that. If he stood up on the same thing and carried on, handled the junglers that way, handle the victims situation that way, fight for the victims, and do all the things that he needed to do, I think we would have been in a different state.
But for the jungler situation, I think Balde will agree that that was a good decision. Isn't that correct, Balde?
Actually, I was talking to someone who actually studied law, but is not yet called to the bar. I said for me, I was not pleased with the fact that the junglers were let go, or kind of given that advantage to enjoy. But the guy told me in law, you cannot continue keeping someone in captive. It's like what was happening in the past. It's like using Jammeh's playbook, to keep detainees in Comicado, at Mile 2 or at detention centers, even when you don't take them to court. You cannot keep someone like that and say, no, we are keeping you, I mean, that's also bad at the end of the day. So, but what I was able to find out was that these junglers, for the time being, they are free, quote unquote, but they are not at liberty to leave the country. You understand what I mean? They are all their travel documents are seized. Some of them are, of course, walking around, in the but they cannot even leave for Senegal or at the border because they don't have their travel documents until the end of the TRC. So at some point, yeah, we tend to blame him for that. But legally, if we talk to, sound legal individuals, who understand the law, they will tell you that, it's outside the remit of the law to actually hold them responsible because it's not yet clear what the commission's recommendations will be. So that said, moving on to the point about Bar's legacy or during his time, what he has decided, like I said, the timing, his abroad departure, I don't think is well conceived because, of course, his successor is going to continue, but it's going to be difficult for him to. Is he going to? Because for Bar indicated clearly to everybody that he was up for something that's against Jammeh, justice for Jammeh, or justice, ensuring that Jammeh is accountable for the crimes, quote unquote, that he has committed is something that must not be compromised. He has indicated it several times. In fact, he has been more emphatic about it. And clearly,
that might not sit well with the current government, being that they have the current government has recruited vast majority of Jammeh's folks. So having to state something like that might not go down well with the borough's administration. Isn't that something correct?
yes, exactly. Because it all depends. Politics is, well, so that's why a lot of people and think that it is going to tilt towards a particular direction. It's like a swinging pendulum. Sometimes you don't know where it's going to swing, and sometimes you don't even know the direction at which the pendulum is going to take you. So sometimes you can go either direction, and sometimes you strike a compromise based on mutual interest. So for Ba, he indicated clearly that Jammeh must be held accountable for what he did during his time, and that he made it clear to Gambians that, for dreamers, that forget about Jammeh ever coming to power. Jammeh should think about his day in court because he must be held responsible for what he did.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So that is why his boss, whether it's implicitly, whether it's implicitly going to be something that he has to agree on or not, but it is actually different. So that is my take. Yeah.
So
I
Balde, since you mentioned that perhaps his goal is to get Jammeh prosecuted, and then I think Sam can agree on that. Don't you think that Ba leaving this position even give him a better chance to do that? Because he's going to the international scene, and then he could galvanize. Because he mentioned in his statement that Jammeh would be prosecuted one way or the other, either in the Gambia or outside Gambia. So shouldn't Jammeh be worried now that Ba is going to the international scene and then can galvanize some kind of movement that can bring him to justice?
Sawane, I'll be back.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think what you said makes sense as well. But I think I'm not sure. Like I said, this is something that's a legal matter. We don't know what has happened behind the scenes or what is happening behind the scenes. But really, since he stood out and really spoke about Jammeh's situation. If Jammeh happened to step foot in Gambia, will be prosecuted, arrested, and prosecuted. Now, what we don't know, and what I'm curious to know is, and there are certain things that the general public is not going to know. Now, are they going after Jammeh? Has he done anything to really go after Jammeh? We don't know. I don't know that, but that will be something that is still up there. I want to go back to the jungler situation, though. I think, if you think about it, in America here, if they take someone to a place where there's a commission or a court or anything, and they said, yep, I killed people. I killed so-and-so. I killed 10 people. I killed 40 people, or I killed one person. Do you think that person will be free to go? Even, yes, I understand the legal term. You cannot imprison people without taking them to court.
Right.
You know what I mean? I know that, but at least they will be first arrested and charged with murder, and then before they go to the court to prove their case, they will be held in one place. At least they will be held in one place. Some
Exactly.
people, depending on circumstances, depending on what they did, if it was never a premeditated murder or anything like that, maybe some people may be allowed to take a bail while they wait for their trial. I don't know. But my most important thing is the people that are still currently serving our government,
Exactly.
that have committed crimes in Jammeh's time, and they went to the TRRC and said, yes, I killed people. Yes, I tortured people. Yes, I did this to people. Why are they still working for us? That's my biggest thing. Why are they still working? Because even if you can't prove their case yet, you want to take them to court. What we do, even in our company, if in my company, for example, if somebody does something wrong that's against the law or against the policies, or a gross misconduct, what you do is you put them on investigative suspension. That means they can't go to work. They go and sit until the case is proven, until we take the legal actions while they're on investigative suspension. So he could have done that to the junglers, and some of the people that really went to TRRC but still working for the government, he could have convinced the president also, let's put these people on investigative suspension. They cannot work for our government anymore. We're going to put them aside and investigate what they did until we get to terms. If we're going to take them to court, let's take them to the court and prosecute them. If the court finds them guilty, then they serve the sentences. If the court frees them up, that's when they go free. And at that point, if there is no proof to prove them guilty, well, the time that you suspended them, at least you can come back and say, well, now we've taken the legal action, took them to court, and they are free. There was no evidence against them. So therefore, you can go back to work, and we'll pay you for all these months that you've been sitting down. That's the right thing to do. But so, and none of that has been done. That did not happen. And we still had people that committed crimes and committed human rights violations and still working for the government. I think that is very wrong. And I think he could have done something with that.
Exactly. So, police enforcement and punishing folks who have done wrong is actually a problem in the country. We have observed that over the past few years, and because of that, many wrongs are taking place. But like we said about the junglers, you mentioned that the junglers shouldn't be go free. But according to some arguments that people are making, the junglers have been held for like a year or two. Now, it wouldn't be fair to keep them in that situation without giving them a fair trial. So that being the case, he has used his legal experience and came to do the right thing. That's why Balde and others are saying that, and Balde is back, and others are saying that it is important that we consider what Bad did in that decision to let the junglers go free, because they also need to stand fair trial. You cannot put somebody to a certain
but
extent of
yeah,
time without
yeah,
giving them the trial that they need.
yes, yes, Sawane. Like more to my point, the reason why I think that argument holds water is the fact that yes, it's true. These people, they were told, not my kind of compromise, that you are going to be let loose or you are going to be free, but say the truth. The outcome, the recommendation of the commission, sit and wait for it and see what is going to happen. Because at least no one can say that these junglers are in Guinea-Bissau or these junglers have come to America, because they know that they are not safe anywhere. Look at the case of South Korea here in the US. You see, so there is no way you can escape justice. So they know that they are even safer in Gambia, relatively. So people seeing them around, because they must, it must, people must not pounce on them, because the commission hasn't ended. You know, they are compiling, listening to other witnesses. So at the end of the day, you know, the commission will decide whether they are going to be free or not. But as of now, they are not free, because I made my investigation. Even as of yesterday, I spoke to someone. He said he saw one of the junglers, you know, somewhere, like engaged in farming, and they like. I said, okay, but what about the issue of their travel? He said, no, that guy said he can't travel. All his documents, you know, are seized. So for me, I was at least my mind was addressed. I said, well, people who are, you know, jumping at bar for letting them go, they are not at liberty to leave the country, which is good. So then the issue of again his appointments, his job, his lucrative job at the UN in the Hague is something that has also kind of stirred a controversy. And I think people have all the right to criticize Barr for leaving. Like I said, he has so many unfinished business. The draft constitution, you know, people are hoping that it is going to come to, it's going to be passed, you know, so that Gambians will have a new constitution before the election. If that do not actually come to fruition, for me, it's not as it's an indicator to say it is Barr's failure, but it's the entire country has failed. Because
Right.
this was part of a campaign promise that, you know, the transitional government of Adama Barrow promised, the coalition government of Adama Barrow then promised to Gambians that when they come to power, they are going to make sure that they change the status quo. And one way of changing the status quo was ensuring that you have a constitution that where the imprints of Gambians are, so to speak. So that aside, now we move on to the issue of his abroad departure. I don't think it was well conceived, because I don't think he decided to just jump the ship because he felt that he had to. I think, you know, there has been some, I mean, hidden motives which you and I are not privy to. He may have been, you know, frustrated with the way certain things are, and then that will compel him to say that, look, let me look for plan B before it's too late to jump ship. So for me, that is my take, and it is completely my opinion. You know, I may be wrong, but that's my
So you
opinion as
think
a
he might
Gambian.
get fired um, based on the fact that he probably is not really is pushing out certain agendas that the government or Adam Barrow's administration might not be ruling for?
Well, I know that no one is immune from being fired, you know, in that government, you know, including Barrow himself can be fired by Gambians at the polls if he actually is not delivering or is not
But
delivering.
I don't think he thinks that way, because I think he's so overconfident that he thinks he's gonna just wipe it up, you know, to 15 years, because that's somebody who
No,
is complaining about the constitution 2 terms is actually, you know, probably thinking he can go further than that.
who are you referring to, Barr or Barrow?
Barrow, I'm thinking, yeah, I'm talking about, yeah.
That he don't think he can be?
He can be fired by the Gambian people. He's overconfident. Somebody who is
No,
even
no,
thinking about the 2-term constitutional limit is even small. I mean, like, it's not in favor of him.
no. But listen, who was more confident than Jammeh when he was in power? You know, it is confidence. You know, it is everyone should be confident. It is part of human nature to be confident. But to be overconfident, then there is a red flag to be drawn when you are overconfident. Because that means you are hiding some inadequacies, you are hiding some weaknesses, you are hiding serious flaws about you. But to say that he's not confident, he should be confident. Of course, because that's part of human nature. You have to be confident of life. You have to be confident that the next minute you are going to witness it. You have to be confident that the next minute, you know, you can do something great. You can do something good so that you can convince your people. In politics, you have to be confident. Otherwise, you are not going to have people. Because the people need someone who is confident to tell them about something that they will listen to, something that they can be carried along with, whether it's positive boss or whether it's negative boss. That is it. So I think for the case of leaving, for me, like I said, I have no problem with him leaving, because like any other minister or any government official, sometimes you have to leave at the critical hour, but not at the hour of need. Right now, he is really needed to finish the job. Any other minister or any other replacement can finish the job, but the reforms he set aside were things that he left a question mark over, such as the sale of assets belonging to the former president, and the Court of Appeal coming, you know, coming with a different direction, you know, a decision on the matter. And now, what are they going to do? Those assets have been sold. What is going to happen to them? He left. And
so,
while at the UN, you don't expect him to be called, you know, by the government or his replacement or his successor, you know, to be called and disturb what are we going to do. I don't think it is actually a good time, you know, for him to leave. But again, he felt that now is the best time to leave. Otherwise, something else might happen to him.
Does it appear to you guys that Ba has lost faith in this government to the point that everything might fail, including TRRC? Because we've seen Janet Commission hasn't been implemented by the executive. So would that be a flag, and he doesn't want to go down in history as one of the, you know, like justice ministers who have failed with such a great ideas? Sam is shaking his head. Maybe he has something to that.
Yes, you know, sometimes, you know, like I said, I've been in the industry for a long time, and I've seen people leave jobs, and you know, they have different reasons. And we actually conducted surveys, you know, in the past to see why people leave a job. You know, in the way he left, you know, I can see that some people have left their jobs in the same situation when things are in a very critical hour and they decide to quit. Part of the reason for that is because one, I'm not saying that's what his case is, but it could be part of his problem, his issue too. But you know, one, because he was frustrated. Two, he couldn't get what he wants to do. You know, if he is trying to do the right thing and he's been dictated not to do that, and instead let's do something else, you know, when you sit in situations like that, that becomes so frustrating. No matter how much you like the job and how much you want to do the job, it can be very frustrating, and it makes you feel like you're not going to accomplish what you wanted to accomplish. So therefore, guess what? I'm going to find another job. That person is going to find another job, and until they get the job. The moment they get that job and they get the green light, yep, you got the job now, here's your appointment letter, and blah, blah, blah. It will not matter to them what stage they're in. They can just quit at that time. Whether it's good timing or bad timing, they will not care, because they want to be out of that position, because they feel like they cannot accomplish what they wanted to do because of somebody behind them telling them, no, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. You advise them the right thing, they said, no, we're not going to do that, we're going to do this instead. You know, if you advise somebody to do something 1, 2, 3 times and all of your advices fail, guess what? You're going to find your way out. That could be a frustration. That's why he would leave the Gambia in such manner. Could be.
Who is the gain here? Is it the Gambian people, and who is losing here, or is it Batambedu?
Go ahead, Baldi.
Okay, well, I think here, who is gain, who lose? I think Ba is laughing all the way to the bank.
Okay.
Yes,
Why do you say that?
yeah, because after all, I mean, here you are, you serve as Minister of Justice. You know, you set aside some reforms which have been implemented. Some, like he said, it was like a battle of hunt. You go to the bush or to the forest. In some cases, you miss some target, you hit some target, you come back home and say now you are calling it quits and getting a lucrative job. Yes, it's true. There are some quarters, within the political debate that Bar left a lucrative, a prestigious job, which is more, influential than where he is going. But again, you have to put at the back of your mind that people live for different motivations. Like Sam indicated here, that sometimes you can be frustrated. There are certain things you see, certain signs, signals that are not positive, and you should not wait till when those signals beckon on you that you say, okay, now let me leave. When you leave, it will be like, okay, you are trying to jump the ship. Who knows? Your boss may even say, okay, before you jump ship, let me fire you, so that it will be like a red flag that you are fired. You came on a high note, now you are leaving on a low, so to speak. So for here, I don't think Ba has anything to lose. As Minister of Justice, he did his best to kind of institute reforms, and some of them were maybe taken up by the government. But again, the government has a game plan. He's just there to make sure. He institute reforms or bring help facilitate certain things. But if those decisions are not something that the cabinet or the president Barrow will see as something like a lifeline for him, I don't think he will welcome them. And that's what frustration. That's how frustrations will start emanating. And for him, when he see the signals, it's better for him to look for Plan B. Just like anybody who's appointed minister, you have to start looking for Plan B, option B, because you don't become a minister forever. And then you serve for 3 years. You are lucky. During Jammeh's time, sometimes a minister, the life expectancy of a minister can even be a month. Sometimes it can be 2 months or less than that. But here you are given a lifeline of 3 years. Within these 3 years, you must have, seen a lot of positive feedback from your boss or from cabinet or from the things that you are doing. But along the way also, you see the way you are carrying along yourself. Some you attract a lot of admirers, but again, you attract a lot of enemies. Within that, if you see that there are options elsewhere, there is life outside cabinet, you jump at it. So here, Ba has nothing to lose, except the fact that if I were him, it was not a good timing. He would have served that appointment for later, probably in 6 months' time, yes. But now, there are a lot of questions. I don't think he'll enjoy his appointment in The Hague, with telephone calls coming about what about this file? How are we going to move on? Honestly, that he cannot put on his telephone. I know for sure. He cannot put on his telephone. Yes.
Right. So the risk before Sam comes, the risk here is that he has put together an reform institutions that could go down in the history, right? The TRRC, now the Youth Commission, the Janet Commission. Now, if all had went through, let's say we don't know yet, Ba would be commended. If anyone would be credited, Ba would be perhaps the number one beside the president, correct? Now, having to leave all that things, like incomplete, and not knowing who is coming and how that person will handle those, isn't that a loss of this thing opportunity? Like I'm gonna leave, and then the stuff that I've started pushing the agendas, I don't know the fate of them. So, but I'm gonna leave. And then what about if they failed? I mean, like, would that? How would that reflect on you?
No, Sawane, I don't think it's fair to say with honesty that if the commission of recommendation by the General Commission are not taken up by the government, it is vast failure. Because look, remember, the commission was instituted to look into the activities of a particular, they were given a timeline and a framework to work on. So
Right.
if the commission decide to say that XYZ should pay for this, or XYZ should be framed or should be banned for life, that is the commission. Now, it is up to the president to say that, no, I'm not going to go by what the commission said. I think the commission really, of course, is human, like you said earlier here. They maybe make some errors, or maybe this is going to threaten my government if I happen to do that. Because at the end of the day, we see Barrow when he came to power, his post press conference, with the journalists, they asked him. There was a question that was posed to him that will you be hiring Jammeh's former ministers or people he hired? He said no, he has enough personnel. He said it on record. But what happened later? He made a U-turn. That is about government. So sometimes you say certain things. Sometimes those things keep continuing, but sometimes you make U-turn because of the circumstances that are available. I'm sure he was compelled to do that. He has a good reason, maybe at this level, to say why he decided to make a U-turn, which is best known to him. But Gambians, like myself and so many other people, will compel him to go by those statements he made that he don't need them. But of course, he needed them where necessary and put them there. So if the General Commission is coming up with a report, banning people, saying all sort of things, it is not, if the president refused to abide by that commission report, the president knows why he is not taking that. It is not vast failure or a kind of his weakness for one to pinpoint blame at him and say, why didn't he? Because it's not for him. He's not the president, remember. It's the president who will look at that report and see. And the president, I'm sure, will look at his interests, his political interests first.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay, Sam, what do you think?
Yep, I kind of agree with that part, because Janet's commission recommendations are things that the president has to decide on. Batambidu can go to the president and say, let's do this. Let's do exactly what they said. The president can say, no, but I don't want to do that because I want to keep Elijah Sisa here and I want to keep Mabure and Jai.
Yeah.
And Ba is not going to be able to do anything about that other than walk away with frustration. He's going to walk away with frustration when the president says he's not going to do that. So that'll be one thing. So I think there are things that will frustrate him. And to go back to the question of what happened here, I think is more, so who wins here is more like Ba left the country, his department in a mess, and he's leaving, going to something where he thinks he's going to have more peace, because not only he could have been going through with some frustrations that we don't know. Like I said, he is the legal advisor to the president. You think about all the legal things that happen. That the firing of Yakumba, that's right. The firing of Yakumba is what I'm trying to say here. If you think about
I have to step in that, just to make that some clarity there. Some people are thinking that my father has something to do with that. As an advisor. But go ahead.
Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. So for me, this is all building up the frustration for what is it called, for Batambidu. If the firing of Yakumba was something Batambidu, let's say hypothetically, if he did advise the president that's a wrong move, don't do it, and the president said, well, I'm going to do it because I don't like this, well, again, that would be another frustration for Batambidu. You see what I mean? That could be a frustration. So it could be frustrations upon frustrations over frustrations that can make someone like that leave and will not care the timing. And also, if he has been looking for a job, and people like him, we all know, just like Baldes said, at some point the term of the minister will come to an end, whether before the next election or at the next election. And also looking at the history with Batambidu in this government, is there a chance that the next government will still keep him in place? Probably not. If you think about the diplomatic passports, what happened to he himself with his family. You think about firing Yakumba, that all happened on his watch. Whether he advised the president the wrong thing or the right thing, people don't know that. That is there. And you think about all the things that we talk about, the commission of inquiry, the constitutional review, the jungler situation. And like I said, one thing I said about that one, and Balde didn't hear this part, is, you know, for the jungler situation, all I said was that the most frustrating thing was people that came to commission and said, yes, we did this, we tortured people, we violated human rights, we killed people, and we still allowed them to work for our government. That is the wrong thing, and is a no thing that should have happened. We should have said, whether by advise the president on this or not, there should be something, somebody should say, these people need to be put on investigative suspension. Let's stop them from working for our government, okay? And investigate their situation, take them to the court, let the legal proceedings take place. So there could be a lot of frustration being built on Batambidu that may force him to leave early. But the other thing is, if you have a job, before you leave your job, you better find the plan B. You better find another job first. And if you find that job and that job says, yep, we have it available and it's now, the start time is so-and-so, well, it will not matter whether the timing is good for you or not. Your focus will be, I better take that job now, because if I don't take it now and wait later, that position can be filled with somebody else. And knowing that elections is coming, knowing that, yeah, elections are coming, he may already know that he's not going to be, the president may not win, so he's not going to be staying in the same position. He will be gone. So it was best for him to go. So it's a win-win situation for him and bad for our country.
And bad for our country, correct? Yes.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
So
Bad for our country.
the more people we have next to the president who are former Jammeh aide, the worst we are moving in the wrong direction. And people like Ba, the more we are losing them, the worse we're going down in the drain. Because again, and I'm just gonna throw this out there for the sake of it. I mean, I don't want us to be political here, but we sometimes have to throw some political punch. Having all this, people like Batambedu, such a talented, knowledgeable individual. Not that I'm supporting what he's done, because he has done other things that are far on the left side of the equilibrium. Okay, on the opposite side of the good things that he's done, like you said, like you clearly stated, some of those junkulous things that people have seen as, like non, favorite steps. But if you look at the knowledge that he acquired, and perhaps he haven't used those knowledge to the extent to educate the president, or the president is not probably listening to him. He only picked the ones that he likes. But the more we are losing people like that, the more we become worried as a nation, because at the end of the day, the gap will be filled with people from grade 9 level, people with undereducated, who are political favorites, but because of the fact that they don't have a lot of education and experience, we're going to be going back to square one. So I think, Sam, like you stated, and Balde, I think this is a loss for the country. Despite, no matter how many errors that Ba did in terms of the diplomatic passport, other stuff, we still think that Ba would be better, far better than whoever is replacing him. The fact of the matter is, he stood against Jammeh, and he's in there, to defend the victims. And I think, in my own opinion, I think it's a better place now to even push for the prosecution of Jammeh outside the Gambia, because if this is what he believes, he probably would have a better, because I know what lawyers can do. legally. So I
No,
think,
I think Sawane.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I tend to disagree with you in some respect, in the sense that we cannot say uh, there cannot be any candidate or his successor cannot, he's going to be better than his successor. No, we do
Okay.
respect for him. Yeah, we do
Yeah,
respect for
that
him.
might be overstating. And again, I'm not here to like
Yeah,
brand bar
I
as people
know.
of something like that.
I know. Yeah, I just want
I just
to.
want to be fair. I mean, like when it
Yeah,
comes to like
I know.
you know,
Yeah,
people.
I know. You know, one has to be fair. I will not be part of the camp that will call him the worst attorney general or the minister of justice in the history of Gambia. I will not call him that because look, we have to be fair. You know, to him, he did good things. Of course, just like any person or any one of us. You know, we all have our human weaknesses here and there, and he did some things that could have been done better. You understand what I mean? So to say that, I mean, he's going to do better than his successor, it would not be a fair comment. So
Right,
that's
I agree with
yeah,
you. I
yeah,
agree.
yeah. So that's why I want to clarify here that the only problem, like I said, is his unfinished business. You know, so the next attorney general, because every minister who comes will should have to really do something different, because you don't see from the same wavelength length, you don't analyze from the same point of view. But the only thing is that is the new attorney general going to continue with the reform that he initiated and the rhetoric that he has taken, like personally towards Jammeh? Because when he made that statement that made headlines, that when Jammeh comes at the airport, he will be arrested, you know, upon arrival. You know, those were statements that could have been said by his boss, Barrow. But somehow Barrow has been very mute about Jammeh's issue, except, you know, that, you know, I mean, very few occasions there he mentioned the fact that, you know, the law will be taken into context. How is he going to do that? But Barrow has been the one who will come at the forefront to say things that were catchy, that were like music to the victims. Oh, yeah, this is what we want to hear. So, but to the critics of Jammeh, the supporters of Jammeh will say, this guy is our sworn enemy. Why is he saying that our man will be arrested upon arrival? You know, and all those things. So for me, those are some of the things that
And
people
actually, Rambo counted that. He said that, you know, it's gonna be a civil war. If Jammeh is,
arrested.
which was
Well,
another catchy statement. I mean, you're right. So I think, to be fair, all in all, I think is something to, you know, to what discussion and looking at where we, you know, as a nation, where we should be concerned, and losing someone like him, who has been a pioneer of some of this, you know, reform process. So I think we wish him a very good luck, and hopefully, I mean, his service to the country hasn't ended, because, like I said, what he's going to do out there, and I'm pretty sure as a patriotic citizen, he probably would try to, you know, put our image out there, the Gambian image out there more. So I think we should wish him good luck, and then probably look forward how to, you know, how to work with this reform processes that he left in place, and make sure that, you know, the president, the executive body, and then those people there kind of completed. I think that's the most important right now. What do you guys think?
yeah, I
Any
mean
final
that's
note
fair.
on that before we move to the next one?
Yeah, that's fair. The only thing that I'm worried about is just like Balda said to your statement. Yeah, we could have somebody better than Batambidu. We can have that. I mean, you never know who is out there, and the person they put out there, that Jallo, we don't know what he's going to do. One thing that I think, this is my opinion, one thing that I think may not be done is prosecuting Jammeh, even with the new attorney general. And here's the reason. Um, yes, Batambi stood up there, and then if Jammeh and said if Jammeh stepped foot in the country, he will be arrested upon arrival. That was great, and all the victims were happy to hear that. Well, I I didn't think that was going to happen anyway. That Jammeh would step foot in Gambia, and part of the problem is the president need APRC to get him elected to the next
Ah,
next
okay.
election. If he doesn't have APRC, there's almost zero chance for him to win. Okay, almost nothing, because if he's going to go with just the Barrow Youth Movement or the NPP or whatever they call him, he's not going to win. Okay, so for him to be able to win in 2021 election, he needs APRC. So he's not going to try to do anything to damage that relationship, or damage anything that will jeopardize his relationship with APRC, or jeopardize his ability to pull APRC to him, to his party, so they can support him to win, because APRC is a large party. So I don't think, even with the new Ministry of Justice and Attorney General comes in place, I don't think they will do anything about Jammeh until past elections, so that Barrow can capture those people. So I see us as really not going anywhere with that part. Maybe something else, but not with the Jammeh stuff.
Okay. So
I agree with you. I agree with you entirely, Sam. Yeah, that is, in fact, that is something that, of course, you and I may not be privy to know, because implicitly there is no way Bar is going to mention it. But you know, from reading the lines, and like the way Bar has been very much, you know, outspoken about Jammeh's issue,
yep.
And while his boss has been very mute about it, you can understand that two of them are thinking from different wavelengths. Here is somebody who is like a technician employed, or a consultant employed to do some job.
Yep.
And your boss has a lifeline. He's thinking beyond the box. He's thinking outside,
yep.
about a future. You are thinking about within the short framework, a timeline, and you don't care about whose act is God. For you, what is we are interested is implicitly trying to say that this thing has to be done. Whether you lose your job in the bid, but people will know that you have been quite critical. You have been personally taking it, so to speak, personally taking it up with the former president, that he has to be prosecuted, so that the victims are happy about those kinds of rhetoric. But here is the president, like we said, who cannot win the next presidential election without the support. In fact, not him alone. I think all the parties, whether it's UDP, whether it's GDC, all these parties need APRC supporters to win.
Yep. Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So, and for the president, he will not be a fool to shoot himself in the foot.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So he knows that he has to use APRC as a bargaining chip to get to where he wants to be, and the next election.
In the expenses of our country.
Of course.
Yep.
Yes, because
Yep.
with the registration, official registration of NPP yet to be launched, though, they have to go around the country to look for supporters, and from those supporters, they will likely take from UDP, they will likely take from GDC, they will likely take from all the parties, because it's a new party, you know. And,
so you have to do wrong in order to satisfy your political goal. This is what.
No, it's not. It's not about doing wrong. It's about being. I mean, it's about.
What do you call that? Not about doing wrong, but about what? Not doing right.
No, for him. No, for him. Why are you calling it wrong? In his bid to rule the country, he really has to see how he can strike a compromise and how he can reconcile.
How he can compromise not doing the right thing.
What is that?
How he can compromise not doing the right thing.
Okay, what is
the right thing? Is to prosecute Jammeh for the victim.
Yeah,
we have to be clear here. We cannot do around the bush. I mean, like the right thing.
Right.
When we came out of this,
the right thing. Yeah, I'll jump in here.
For not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
If he has to compromise that for his political base.
And it's also for being selfish. Selfish meaning, you know, looking after my own interests, and I don't care about anything else, just to be able to win. You know, so yeah, the right thing is to really go after Jammeh stuff and get Jammeh situation done. Get that done. Get it out of the way, so that people can see that the right thing, which is justice, is being served. That's what people want to see.
Yes, someone, now that you have spoken clearly, before you were also trying to speak in, vaguely like that. When you say what is the right thing, so when you say prosecute Jammeh, of course, now you are talking. Of course, I want to see that is done, because that is what you and I expect. But like I said, for him, Sam has indicated it clearly, and he knows it. Every Gambian, for that matter, knows it. That now, with the way presidential candidates are coming out, from hibernation or from isolation, announcing their bid, no one knows from now again December how many candidates or how many governments are going to come forward and register their parties and pay to the IEC that they want to register their party and get 5,000 signatories from across the country. So now the point I'm saying here is, in order for him to win, he may try to strike a compromise with the APRC supporters or with Jammeh. But it's going to be a very tricky situation. Because the thing is, remember, the Gambia has a law that former presidents will be entitled to a salary of at least more than $50,000 per month. And so let me put it, a retirement package. It's in the Constitution. Jawara received that till the time of his death, and including payment for 3 security staffers and also per diem travel for him outside the country and medical bill within and outside the country. Jammeh, is not receiving that. So, and Jammeh extended an unconditional amnesty to Jawara to come back home. Jawara wasn't prosecuted. So I don't know whether Barrow is going to use that context to say that, look, I'm the president. This is what they said. In the bid for national reconciliation, I'm using my executive powers to extend amnesty to this man.
Right. So that could happen.
Remember,
that could happen.
Remember how to call it. Someone, you have to put it into context. Here, you see, the law is very funny. We heard from the Ghana Commission. Apart from a few cases where Jammeh's signature was appended, I think Trust Bank or what. But most of these cases about Jammeh asked me to go. He asked me to collect this. So in law, you don't base it on assumption. You understand what I mean? And right. The junglers also said, Jammeh ordered me to kill this guy. So where is the evidence? You understand what I mean? So all these things, Barrow could use, in his kind of armory to think that, well, the president can be given an unconditional amnesty in a bid for national reconciliation.
Right. No. I understand your point politically, but what we're trying to just understand here that might not be the right thing to do for the.
I know.
That's what we're trying to get to the bottom here.
Yeah, and I believe in setting examples. Yeah. I believe in setting examples for wrongdoing. Anything that's wrong can never be right.
And then he might even get more support. You probably don't know by prosecuting Jammeh.
Yep.
Then he probably would thought that he would get from APRC. Sometimes doing the right thing could get earn you more.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because it makes you authentic and it makes you look not like a fragile as a leader.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, we're gonna move to our next segment of the show, which is the gay and lesbian issue in the Gambia. Fellows, this has been a burning issue right now. It has never been, but the fact of the matter is, because of the fact that money is involved now in our political spectrum. The world also is changing. Things are getting compromised, especially when it comes to our, religious aspect of things getting compromised and so forth. So this is an issue that needs to be really, really jumped at and then taken care of before it gets off the cliff. I know many people are talking aggressively about it, and some people have even went to the point that they they have made a lot of claims that if this thing ever take place, this and this and this. So I think we have to be realistic on this. Gay and lesbian issue has never been a center of our focus. We have better things to be worried about as a nation and as Africa as a whole. So people in the like in the Western world, they have really overcome their perhaps their economical hurdles. They have moved to another phase in life, so they don't have to. They have other things to enjoy or to explore. We are here sitting. Our country is in debt. People are not eating. We are not getting the resources that we needed. Unemployment, youth unemployment is rampant, right? We are not even agriculturally, we are not even meeting our standards. Our youths are going traveling back way and dying on the sea. We have a lot of problems. And now our electricity is the poorest perhaps.
It's epileptic.
Clean water, we are
It's
not having.
comatose.
Families are suffering. If it is not for the people in the West who are actually helping their families, we would have been having demonstration or probably a civil war in the street. Now, with all that issue we have, we are talking about something that entirely is not a requirement for somebody to survive. It's not a requirement. I mean, a choice, something you're talking about. And no matter how somebody might look at it, to me personally, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself, it's a choice or a lifestyle. So I think our leaders ought to really get their head on their shoulders and try to deal with this issue once and for all. And ask yourself, where were we before this time? Where were we? We were living fine before even all this noise about gays and lesbians. It didn't kill us. So why, fall into a prey? Just because somebody is giving you an incentive, if you allow this kind of rights to go, you can get this, you can get that. We will allow, we'll give you X amount of money, X amount of loans. Or we feel like you are democratic. Yes, we are democratic, but it doesn't mean if you're democratic, you have to fall into this kind of thing. Civil liberty. Okay, it exists in America here and elsewhere, all right? But the way our constitution is framed, it has nothing to do with this. We haven't mentioned anything like that. A marriage is between a man and a woman, not between animals. I mean, sorry, a marriage is between a man and a woman. Even in animal kingdom, we haven't seen such. I mean, if you guys have seen such, you can bring it up to our attention, whereby a marriage has to be between different animals of the same sex. I've never seen one. I mean, even though animals don't get married, but I've never seen same sex having to be together in animal kingdom. So, what is your take? What is it that we need to approach this? Because I know our government officials, our politicians are under pressure, financial pressure, of course, and the fact that they should meet the international standard or whatever standard you might call it, or Western standard, for this to be practiced in our country. But we have to also look at us as Africans, not only Gambians, but as Africans. We travel so far. We have culture. The reason why we are down like this, because we neglect our culture. We allow religious to surpass our culture. I'm religious, I mean, of course. because I'm born in a Muslim religion. But at the same time, you know, we have to really be mindful. When if we want to develop as a country, as a nation, we have to put our culture. We have to, you know, practice our culture. If we neglect our culture, we will definitely fail. And it's the same thing. Africa is rich with all these minerals. Putin and other, you know, people are saying it. But what we have, if we don't believe in ourselves and practice what has been, you know, given down to us, and we follow other people who will not excel. You can have your religion, you can have whatever you believe you have, but still, we have to stick with our culture. And our culture never endorsed gay and lesbian issue. We never addressed it. We have better things to think about. We have technological problem to overcome. We have social problem. We have other problem like corruption to deal with. So I think, you know, before wasting too much time, let's just jump on this and see each and everyone's thought on this. And this is our opinion based. Again, we are here not to tell you, you know, X, Y, and Z. We are here to express what we think in the best of our knowledge is the right thing to do or what we know. So I'm gonna allow Sam to jump in, and then Balde can come in after this time.
Okay, well, to start off this topic, I'm gonna start off just going straight to the point and say my opinion, and then dive into it. And my opinion is, I don't condone gay and lesbian marriage. Okay, I personally don't condone it, and part of the reason is, one, Gambia is a very religious country. We are Muslims, most of it, not everybody, but if we allow men to marry men, who is going to marry our daughters and our granddaughters? Very important question. Who is going to marry those people if we allow that in our country? You know, we need to think outside of the box. And we need to go back home, and all parents in Gambia really need to do their work to make sure that we train our children, just like you were talking about, our culture, our tradition, our religion, to make sure that every parent that has a young man that is getting up, growing up, we need to gear them towards marrying a woman. And every woman that we have, as we all know, there are more women in the world than men. This is the same thing in Gambia. This is part of the reason in our religion that men can marry up to 4 wives, because there is going to be, God knows, there is going to be more women in the world than men. And as a result, if we allow men to marry men, really it makes it what that does is it really makes things worse, makes matters worse, because then our women, our daughters and our granddaughters and great granddaughters will all be out there, not have the choice to marry and take pride in marriage, and be able to hold their husband's hand and take them to the family and say, this is my husband. Visit your family, visit your father and your grandfather with your husband, and say, here is our children, and let those grandparents be proud of having children together. Okay, so we're completely abandoning, not completely abandoning, but we are deviating from our culture and our tradition and our religion. So I personally don't condone it. I don't want to see gay and lesbian marriage in Gambia. So that's my point on that. I wanted to make that clear first. Then the second part is, when you think about the world, democracy, you think about democracy in the world. Yes, democracy calls for that, for equal treatment for men and women, and equal treatment for people regardless of their sexual orientation and things like that. So when democracy is saying that, and Gambia is at a stage where we are, and now we have EU saying, if you do this, we'll give you money, or we'll give you money for this. Gambia can say, we don't want the money for that. We don't want your money for that. We're going to continue to do what we used to do without taking that money, if money is the key there. And just like Sawana said, we can control corruption. We can control a lot of things that will generate money for us rather than taking money for this to happen. But at the end of the day, we're all going to refer to the laws of the Gambia. What is in our laws? And this is where our National Assembly members need to tackle this, because they're there to represent the Gambian people. They need to take this seriously and look at that law. And even the most recent time I looked at, the last time I looked at, even in the draft constitution, I have not seen where they clearly stated, something like this need to be very clear. There should not be if and buts or anything about it that will be controversial, or anything that would be give people a doubt. They need to go in there and clearly spell this out, that a marriage should be between a man and a woman. And if they clearly state that there, by really tackling the issue and vote on it and do the right thing, that's going to be Gambia's law. But right now, it's not certain. It's not in the law that says that the marriage should be between a man and a woman, and it does not spell out the gay and lesbian thing. It does not spell it out. I've not seen it anywhere. The last time I looked at the Constitution. So unless the final draft Constitution has it, I don't know. But it is something, at the end of the day, we need to go back to the lawmakers and have them tackle this issue and spell it out in our Constitution. That way we won't have to worry about any outsiders coming to tell us what we need to do, because it's in our law. So that's my take.
Before Balde comes in, great point there. Now you talked about like most of our females wouldn't have husbands, because if we started to encourage gay marriages, then most men and women, most women would not have husbands. Now I've seen this practice in, I don't know which country in Africa, I forgot the name, whereby, is it in Kenya, whereby they try to put a law together that each and every man must marry more than one wife, and then probably they will foot for you, foot for the bills for you. But they started laughing.
I will support something like that if it's in the law.
Do you think this is realistic in the Gambia? I mean, being that our definitely our young women are out there without husbands, even when if you exclude the gay marriage and lesbians, you kind of take that out, but we still have men shortage in the world globally and also in the Gambia. So should Gambian government be thinking along those lines, where trying to accommodate these ladies who are singles and then probably would want to be married to multiple, kind of encourage polygamy in a sense in their laws, so that it could be easier or even be affordable? Because I'm telling you, even without the gay marriage, we still are running into that situation. And I'm just bringing it up because it has
So
countries.
First of all, Sawan, let's look at things point by point. The issue you mentioned about the gay and lesbian issue in the Gambia, or homosexuality, I think is a very critical debate, one that will either take us towards an enviable direction, or it will go into a very unfortunate scenario. Look, Sam brilliantly sum up the whole issue by mentioning democracy. That when you are a democratic state, you have to cultivate, issues around democracy and accept liberalism, accept Christian, accept people for who they are and for what they are. But mark you, in a democracy or in any rule or regulation for that matter, there are, issues that are considered that you can't go beyond them. There are limits to what you can do. For instance, the example I give you, an anecdote, is on press freedom. People are free to say whatever they want to say within the ambit of law. But you go to a theater, commonly in any journalism class, they will tell you, go to a theater hall where you have thousands of people watching a cinema or a movie, shout fire, 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 create false alarm and see, you'll be arrested. Are you at liberty to say that? No, because there you are creating a false alarm, and people are going to. There will be a stampede where people will run into each other, and then there will be injuries, or even some injuries may result in death. So you, the guy who shouted fire, 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 make raising false alarm, will be arrested for saying that. But again, does that mean that you are at liberty to say that? No. So for me, I think the issue of democracy, there are limits to which we can do. Look, here in the West, we know that marriages, most of the time, one cannot marry more than one wife. Of course, you may have partners. Like for instance, you here in Sam and then Sawane, you all have your legal wives. Number one, you may have 2 or 3, but only one will be entertained in the law. Of course, no one will stop you, but within the ambit of the law that's here, they'll be considered. You will consider them as your partners, but legally they'll not be entertained as your wives. Why is it that here that is entertained and people are not fighting for those reforms to allow polygamy? Because it's within the ambit of the law and culture of the state. You take it or leave it. So again, why it is that in other countries like Europe, you have for instance, you have monarchy. Like for instance, in the UK, you have the Queen, and yet it's a democratic state or nation. In Holland, you have the same thing. In Belgium, you have the same thing. And these are democratic institutions. These are democratic nations. For that matter, we all tend to admire them for what they are. But that is silent about that particular nation. Okay, for us, we are not talking about a chiefdom or a kingdom. We are talking about something that, honestly, in as much as we want to embrace democracy, those are things that are like no-go areas. They are like gray areas. We don't want to go into them. Yes, like you said earlier, you are not trying to condemn them or condone them because we live with them here. But here, you don't belong here. Even if you come 100 years ago, or you have kids here, and you've never kind of denounced your Gambian citizenship, and you have taken up citizenship, but you don't belong here. There are limits to which you can do. There are limits to which, the laws of the land must be accepted. And those are things that you cannot change. You cannot, for instance, see in the future that those laws we are talking about polygamy here. No, not in our lifetime, and not even in the lifetime of our grandchildren. So for Gambia, I think this debate about it being accepted, for me, is a non-starter. Honestly, outside Gambia, yeah, no problem. Here, we can be accommodating. You can have friends with them. You understand? You respect their sexuality for who they are. You don't judge them. You don't try to pass judgment that it is bad. At the end of, personally, in the Gambia, you can say it is bad because that's where we are from. And like you said, we don't want to reach a situation where the society will be decadent. Because that is it. At the end of the day, we have children there, we have our family members there. So we have a situation where it will be like man to man, the woman to woman. Then where are we heading to? That is really inimical. That is really inimical to our society norms and values. Honestly. Yes, democracy, we should embrace it. But remember, democracy is like you take that which you can take, and certain things are there. Like I gave the anecdote about press freedom, that yes, you can say whatever you want, but again, shouting fire, fire, in a theater full of people watching movies, and then it is false, it turned out to be false, you will be arrested for raising false alarm. But you can't say that, democracy says that I should say whatever I want. No, there are limits to which you can do. To every rule, they say there are exceptions. For us, this is one area that our society must not kowtow to in the name of a bargaining chip for money, or maybe building institutions, or even giving us $1 billion or even €1 trillion. No, let them park their money. We keep that which is good. Certain things we embrace it. That is, within our society, like liberal views or liberal ideas or constructive debate, engage in intellectual intercourse, agreeing on issues that are very salient, debating, not fighting at the end of the day. But these things are things that you cannot, for instance, tell a Westerner, no, you have to accept polygamy. You have to accept it there because it is like allowing women to be free so that they can all get married. A woman who's unmarried, who's on the loose, is not secure, or is not desirable in a society. We should let them live in a society where men can have them, at least four of them, under his roof. You cannot tell them that, because they'll tell you, it's laughable. They'll even tell you, no, this is, yeah, you can do it in Islam, or you can do it in Africa. For our country also, we have unique, every country has their own unique values. So for us, this is our cherished, heritage, for that matter. In as much as someone, you are educated with them, they embrace you, you respect them. Like Sam said, civilizedly, you can't condemn them, because, like I said earlier, you are living within them here. You have to respect them. When you are educated, when you are conscious, you have to really be accommodating. You cannot always be self-centered and say, no, the way I think, that's the way everybody should think. Or the way I am, everybody should be like that. Or no, my religion, I can only be with people who are Islamic, who have Islamic orientation. You have to be very liberal-minded. You have to be accommodating. But again, in as much as we want to be accommodating in our own country, certain things we really don't want to have it there, unless if we don't want to be, if we want to be economical with the truth.
So, what about the economical issue that our country can face? Because the West is hammering us after we get after we build the new Gambia. They asking our leaders, hey, you can't get certain funds if you are not actually encouraging this. I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, that opportunity. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's, I think, like I said, it's just like when we think about during Jammeh's time. When Jammeh was there, Jammeh did not encourage it. He did not even entertain the conversation. So, and we survived. So I think what could happen is, again, it all comes down to our National Assembly members. Our National Assembly members need to go into the National Assembly, into a session, and debate this and put firm laws into it. That way it's not questionable. So we will work with countries that want to work with us. And there may be a country or two that may say, we're not going to encourage you. We're not going to give you any funds or anything. But this is where we take the leadership. Our leadership needs to start fighting for corruption and get things out so we can get our own funds. Gambia can really generate a lot of revenue in Gambia. It's just that our problem is maybe half of that revenue, or it may not be half, at least quarter of that revenue is going into individual pockets. We need to close those loopholes and bring that money into our country, and we will be able to do things if we have the right leadership on our own without relying on foreign aids.
So you mean okay? So in other words, you're saying that it should be we should just turn blind to those aides who are conditioning us to encourage gay marriages, right?
Yeah, we should be pushing our National Assembly to go and make this law correct the situation that's in there. Don't leave it vague for people to say, well, it's there, but well, it didn't mention this. So let's make it clear and make it very firm that gay and lesbian marriage is not going to happen in the Gambia. They need to put it in law that we don't encourage that in Gambia. Is not acceptable in Gambia. It's not allowed in Gambia. Once they make it a law, that's it. All Gambian people know this is the direction we're moving. It's not a law here. It's not a law here. It's not going to be encouraged. And
So
then
do
everybody
you
needs to do
think
their
this is
homework.
also to be fair? Do you think this is fair to the people who might think they are not like actually the same sex that they feel they are embodied and embodied with?
Yes, they may think that is not fair. And in that case, they are more than welcome to leave the country and go somewhere else that is encouraged and marry there. We won't have any problem with that, right? They could do that. It's not
So you
fair to
don't
them,
believe
but the
that
majority.
you don't believe in the argument some people are born that they are look like a man but they are not actually man inside.
That can happen. Yes, that can happen. But that's where it starts from childhood. The parents of those people, Those parents need to set them on the right path for them to succeed and for them to be able to understand that our culture, our tradition, and our religion says a man can only marry a woman, and the same thing for
So
women.
those people will live. Those people will live in a life that they're not gonna be happy. I mean, like I'm a man physically, but I feel like a woman. So I need to like have a man partner. So that is gonna take away that. And do you think that's fair as an individual?
Well, when I was in Gambia, and
Or
when
do
we
you
were
don't believe
all
that
in
that can
Gambia,
happen?
was that?
You don't believe that that can happen? A man can be. I mean, a man can be trapped in a female body.
Yes, it can happen. And what I'm saying about that is if that happened, we're counting, we're looking, if you look at the population of Gambia, we're counting, I don't know, we don't know, they have not all came out, but I can say that it's really not even quarter of the population. Okay. So the majority of the people are Muslims. The majority of the people follow our culture and tradition. So let's say, like I said before, when I was in Gambia, when you were in Gambia, you wanted to go to a university. You wanted to go to America to go to university because Gambia doesn't have it. So if somebody is in Gambia that wants to be a gay or lesbian, Gambian laws does not allow it. Go somewhere else that allows it, and you can have your fun. You can
So,
be
so
in that life.
are you gonna encourage those people to be funded to travel to somewhere else so they can live a life
Not
that will
funded
allow
by
them?
when you were coming to the United States to go to the school to go to school, you were not funded by the government, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So it should not be funded. If it's
But
a
but
law, once
but
the law says it's not allowed, then
we
yes,
there's
should
no
have a
fund for
way.
it.
We don't want it in our country. I agree with that. But we
yeah.
should have a way to accommodate these people. I mean, like if we believe that it exists, or if we believe that it's just a practice, we have to come to the point of that because we don't want to alienate our citizens. The fact that we are all created equal, and then we all belong to the Gambia. So I think this is a very very complex
But
situation.
Sawane,
Yeah.
Sawane,
Yes, I'm here.
do you believe that a sizable population, like a number of Gambians, are engaged in it? Do you have evidence of that before you say we have to leave and let others
Well,
do?
I have seen when I was growing up, I've seen some people who feel like they are trapped. One person perhaps or two, but at that time I didn't even know about this lesbian and gay. They do everything like a woman. I mean, they're men, but they do everything in a feminine way. They have not expressed to me, but I have a belief that it must exist in the country. It must somehow exist. So my take is like, as a leader of a country, you need to. Everybody is your child. Everyone. So we need to treat everyone equally. If these people are feel like this, and they come out, we don't allow them we don't encourage, because allowing it in the Gambia means you are encouraging it. So that one I
So
agree.
what are you trying to say? So what is your
What I'm trying to
standpoint
say,
now?
like we have to look at a way that these people can, either like Sam said, let them go to
Exist.
another country where they can practice it, but maybe kind of fund their traveling or whatever. But there must be a way. I don't know. As of now, I'm not. I'm not in the position to actually determine that because I'm not in the government. But I would feel that people can be interviewed and be looked into in depth psychologically, and these people can be finding a safe haven somewhere, uh, even if it means some kind of funding to get to go that place. Because the biggest mistake is if you legalize it. You legalize it, people will practice it and make it a way of life, and that's what's gonna hurt us religiously, and not only that, our children will not be enticed to get married. So I don't know what you guys find. What is your final take on this before we conclude?
In Gambia, there are people in Gambia that look at what happened outside of Gambia. They look at people buy Michael Jordan's tennis shoes. They also want to have it. Whether they can afford it or not, they want to have it. They look at people doing certain things in America and Europe. They want to do the same thing. There are Gambians who may think the same thing because the gay and lesbian marriage is happening outside of Gambia. They want to do it. Whether it's good for them or not, they're not looking at the long term. They're not looking at
the baggy pants, dropping the
baggy
pants.
pants. Yeah, they see
Look at
it
that.
happening. Exactly, they do it. They do it. So this is part of our problem. Gambians like to see something and they copy it. Whether it's good for them or not, they don't know. Even if it's bad for them, they still want to do it without thinking about consequences. So that that's it. Some people want to do it just because they want to show up.
Yeah, Sam.
Yeah.
Sam. To come to my last point on this, Sawane, just to take up your point. Sorry for interrupting you, but I just wanted to strengthen your point. That Gambians are influenced by three people, three persons.
Yep.
I once wrote it in a piece published online. That is one. Gambians are influenced by Senegalese.
Okay.
Gambians are influenced by Nigerians, and Gambians are influenced by Americans.
Yep.
For me, these are the three countries that, if you are looking at a Gambian trying to do character analysis of the typical Gambian.
And why? And my question is why? Why these three? Not not people from Germany, not people from other countries. Why?
Listen. There are Gambian youths I know who speak the American accent better than you and Sam, and they've never been here.
I agree.
Yeah.
You understand?
They like to practice that. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, because they watch these Hollywood movies and try. Now in this age of globalization, you watch TV, you consume American, products, you consume American channels, you consume American media.
Yep.
So you spend a lot of your time, because whatever you tilt your mind on, you are solely going to achieve something on that.
Yep.
You understand what I mean? So that's what. Forget about Germany and other places. These countries, of course, there may be Gambians who, but I'm talking about the vast majority here. Are influenced by these three countries. Senegal, look at the way some of us even take the Wolof accent, the Senegalese Wolof accent. You have to put some French words there in order to belong.
Yep.
You go to Senegal, they tell you're Gambian, as all of the, then maybe you have a complex and say, let me, in order for me to be accepted, let me try to be like them. So America also here, you tend to speak, they say, you have an accent. Then you feel complex. Maybe I'll not be respected. Let me try to, speak the American accent. Let me try to be like them, change my intonation, change everything about me, so that, once you go back to your country, they say, he's from America. They say, yeah, he has arrived. He has arrived. Then Nigeria, look at our music scene. I don't want to name names, but these young artists, look at the kind of music, look at Flavor, you look at P Square, you look at Davido. So you see, we are influenced by these three countries. And like you said, this baggy pants you're talking about now, a lot of people, will go and buy. Sometimes they are not even members of that, which you think, but sometimes they think that it's part of the trend. Now, you have to put on that it's original. This is from Gucci. This is from, Vasi. This is from, you name the models here.
Yep.
Yep.
It makes sense. So Sam, what is your final word on this?
My final word is we push our National Assembly members to really look at this and make strong laws, really clarify the law. There is a law in there that says marriage is between a man and a woman, but they did not mention anything about gay and lesbian. I think they need to go in there and clarify that so people understand that the Gambian laws does not allow this. That's it, period. If they clarify that, we all know it's in the law. Now, whoever wants to practice it in there, if they decide to do that, if say a man and a man want to do something, is not going to be, because it's not part of the law, it will not be recognized, and they will not be allowed to go register that marriage, because it's not a law. You see, they will not be allowed to do anything. However, I am against any type of human right violations, because it's not a law. I would not also condone the government to say, okay, if I see a man and a woman, sorry, a man and a man marrying, we're going to arrest them and put them in jail. That's not right. That's not right either.
That's why I said we
Yes.
should find a common ground whereby,
Yep.
it will not, it will not encourage, it will not encourage that kind of life in the Gambia. At the same time, to preserve these people's also their lives.
Yeah, I mean, we can respect all people and have respect for human rights, but a law is a law. Once it's in the law, then we all know this is where Gambia stands, and we move on. I think that's what we need to do. So for that to happen, my final word is we go back to the National Assembly, let them make that law, let them clarify that law very clearly, 100% clear, so there's no doubt.
Should it be in the Constitution?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It should be in the Constitution. In the draft Constitution that I've seen, it did not clarify. It just says marriage is between a man and a woman, but it didn't say anything about lesbian. So they shouldn't have a paragraph or a section that says a marriage between a man and a man or a woman and a woman is not allowed in Gambia. Make it
So
very
what about
clear.
transgenders, those who change their sex?
They should cover that too. They should cover it there. I mean, if they do
Because
that,
if
they go to
somebody
a doctor and decide to do that, that's
if
on
somebody
them.
was a man before, now it's a female, why would somebody think that, that's not a marriage between a female now and a man?
Right, and that's where they need to address all that. That's why I said at the end of the day, I
But
want
what
to
is
go
your
back.
stand? What is your stand on that?
Well, my stand on that,
Transgender man married, transgender man to a female married to a man. What is your stand on that?
my stand on that is there should be a law on that as well that condemns that. That way, doctors will not even do that.
Do you condemn that?
I condemn it too. Yes, I don't want to see a man changing to a woman or a woman changing to a man. I mean, me as a man, if I see a man that changed to a woman, do I want to marry that person? Absolutely not. I don't want that. So,
What is your
but
take on that?
nothing against them. Is their human right, is their choice. They want to do it, but I won't. It's just something that we shouldn't encourage in Gambia.
Okay.
So a law is where I'm going to. Yep.
Yeah, anyway, my last take on it is just in few words. In the Gambia, it's a no-go area. That is a non-starter. Not in a billion years.
So what is your backup plan for those who are in that situation to accommodate them?
To accommodate who?
Those who felt like they are not themselves.
It's just like what I said. For me, just like what I said, it is a no.
Let them just leave. Let
them go somewhere where they can have it. Just like people travel, people took the risk to get on the boats, to get on across the Atlantic Ocean, or go through the back way, and some even died because they have something they want to go for in Europe. Let them take a plane and fly to places where they can practice that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you. It's a very wonderful debate. I never thought that we're gonna come to that conclusion. But it looks like gay marriage can definitely be a no-go area for Gambia. And then those who feel like they're not themselves, they can go to countries that do those things and then become themselves. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. So for our viewers, this is the end of our program. I think we have been an hour and a half, and it has been very fruitful. So we look forward for next Sunday at the same time. Thanks, Balde. Thanks, Sam, for your wonderful insight. I think this was a wonderful program that anybody can get a takeaway from.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Take care, guys.
And bye now. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.